We had a meeting with them earlier this week. Hong Kong Polytechnic University, the Hong Kong Controllers Association, and as we get going, many chains have come on board with us, and as we continue down that road, we hope to get even more and more help as we're making the project more public. So if anybody would like to be one of the experts in that project, and as we go along, help us identify some of the exceptions, some of the similarities, please let me know that at the end of the project, at the end of the session, and we'll be happy to work, help us with that project. And with that, I'm going to be quiet because my 20 minutes are up, and I'm going to turn the podium over to Mr. R.P. Rama, who is going to talk about PCI.
No, that's okay. You will have to log in. While I'm waiting for the computer to resume from its sleep mode, just wanted to share some other things that has happened. Since we landed in Bombay, the perception that we were talking about tourism, we've had very warm welcome everywhere we've been to. That's the biggest asset that this country has, is providing warm welcome. We met with Ernst & Young 2 days ago and talked to them about the global standards of accounting, and they are on board with us to help us out in their consulting and reviewing what the students at Oro University will do. They will create the glossary and terminologies and everything that we would provide them with the guideline that we've given to University of Lausanne, take that same model and implement that. And once the students at Oro University have completed that work, Ernst & Young and some of the professionals that are chartered accountants within the country will review the correctness of that data. And then we are planning to go to the Chartered Accountant Institute to say, now, does this meet with your accounting standards of reporting within the country? And when they give their seal of approval that, yes, all the items that are classified are according to the Chartered Accounting Standards, that's the time when we will feel comfortable that we've been able to do justice to provide this guide to the industry. Coming to PCI compliance, this is not just credit card issues. It's a big white elephant, but looking into security systems of all the property management systems, starting from reservations all the way to when a customer checks out, that's what we are talking about, is payment card industry. That's PCI. 5 global credit card companies, American Express, MasterCard, Visa, Discover, and JCB came together. And they say that we see a lot of fraud in the credit card industry, that the credit card numbers are being stolen, they are being duplicated, and we have no way to track this down. And now we're gonna give this responsibility to the merchants who own these merchant numbers, meaning you and us in the hotel industry, to say you have to protect your systems. Even though we provided the credit cards to these customers, it's your responsibility to protect their credit cards and data that they have provided to you from the time of reservations till the time of checkout, which could be a period of 1 year. Who in the world can do that? That's what we are talking about, and it is us who have to comply with those regulations. It's a very burning hot topic in United States and Europe. I've spoken to quite a few people in India, but they have just started talking about it and wanting to learn about it. And I'm gonna go briefly because I have only 20 minutes, because this can take 2 hours to 3 hours for everything to go in detail. But I would say one thing, that our members of HFTP have a complete inventory of everything they need to do from A to Z on the website after they log in, after they become their members. We have a complete guide. We are participating in the advisory council of the PCI, and we are bringing concerns of the hospitality industry with those councils, and they are making modifications to it. The components of sound data, we are not going to talk about bits and bytes here. But it's as simple as how do we protect the credit card information that's in our systems. We just heard day before yesterday, Kiowa Island Resort, where the PGA finals took place last month, 2 weeks ago, got hacked. And all the credit card information of all the customers that were staying there from historical are all compromised. Those numbers then go to Russia or whatever countries this fraud is going on, and they are sold on the internet for $20, $15. Those are used for online purchasing. That's how serious this is. It's just a good practice to secure systems rather than us talking about how to protect credit card information. There are 4 levels of merchants within the classifications by the PCI Council, and those levels are based on the amount of volume of business that we do. The penalties for non-compliance can vary, very steep, and more than that later on. If you don't comply with them in the first findings, those penalties can grow. University of Delaware research shows that consumers are likely to stop patronizing the hotels and hotel brand in an event of a breach. Has anyone's credit card been compromised within the crowd here? Are you bold enough to show me your hands? What kind of experiences you had? None. That's very good news. You are lucky that your systems that you are using are not getting hacked. You're running out of power? We have a power situation, please. Breaches investigated by Spider Labs were in hotels. One initial penetration led to multiple, because when they found there was an opening here, that led to multiple break-ins. Typically, the reasons for these break-ins would be weak remote access controls into your system. People can get into remotely into your systems. The routers and the firewalls are unconfigured, and the default passwords are left in place. People on the internet know what the default passwords of those particular equipments are when they are sent out from the factory. And if those are not changed, they know how to get into your system. And hotels are unlikely to have conducted audits or tests prior to the breach, was something what we found out, that once the systems are installed, the hotels don't go back to audit the installers or the implementers. Flashing. Goes now. This is a graph that was put together, and if you see 40% of the systems were hacked were hospitality. This is the demographics of what has taken place, and that's why the hospitality industry is very much at risk, and all these major credit card companies that are going to enforce PCI compliance are looking at the hospitality industry as a major place where they can earn a lot of fees out of fines. And that is that's very evident from this demographic slide that we have here. If you look at breaches and trends, 761 breaches in 2010, 89% of the victims subject to credit card DSS had not achieved compliance. Yeah, please. I'm going to respect everybody's time. I'm going to just go ahead and just mention it orally. It's very scary when you don't want to see your hotel's name or your company's name on papers. Imagine the negative impact that you would have if your systems were breached. The fines schedules that are put together by these credit card companies by Visa and MasterCard range from $5,000 to $25,000 a month if you don't comply with their security systems once you've breached. Now convert that into rupees and see what that amount would be. The brand fines and the acquirers who then passes it on to the hotel because these banks will then pass it on to the hotel because that's where the breach took place. So the responsibility comes on that. In this case, the cash just disappears. Just imagine you would have to close down your hotels, and the merchant agreements give them this power to take your money away. If you look at the fine lines in the agreements that you sign with the credit card companies, it does say that the merchant is responsible for all these breaches and whatnot. So the compromised merchants will be designated an L1 status. L1 status means you will have to compulsorily every quarter submit to the institute the security compliance reports of your systems conducted by independent bodies who you would have to pay. Again, the card replacement cost is at $35 for each. When HFTP calculated the total amount of fines that could be aligned just in the initial investigative stage, on an average between United States, Europe, Russia, and all the other countries, we calculated it would cost $142 per credit card number of the cost. Imagine how many records you would have to pay, $142 per record. And that's just the beginning. After that, the ongoing costs that you would incur would be on top of it. So the Security Standards Council formed by the brands. Yes? Don't worry about it.
Should I put it on this laptop now?
The pages alag alag ho jaenge.
It's a bit done. It will take 2 minutes. Sir. You carry on with your.
Yeah. So we are talking about the merchant levels, and here's the definition of all the merchant levels. So generally, typically, all the hotels would fall in category 4. The category 1 are those for businesses that are strictly internet-based, where they have more than 6 million transactions that could take place, such as Amazon or say eBay or any of those web-based systems. Basically, there are 12 steps that anybody can take. Today, as soon as you go back, challenge your IT managers and say, do you have these 12 steps in place? First, installing and maintaining a firewall configured to protect the cardholder's data. Number 2, do not use vendor-supplied defaults for system passwords and use other security parameters. Third is protect the stored cardholder data. Number 4, encrypt the transmission of cardholder data across open and public networks. Number 5 is use and regularly update the antivirus softwares. Number 6, develop and maintain secure system and applications. 7, restrict access to cardholder data by businesses on a need-to-know basis. Assign a unique ID to each person with a computer access. Restrict physical access to the cardholder data. Track and monitor all access to network resources and cardholder data. Regularly test security systems and processes, and maintain a policy that addresses information security. These are the 12 points. It means that you cannot even send your credit card or receive credit card information via email for any guest reservations. You cannot store the credit card number, expiration date, and CCV codes within your sales and catering system in the notes section. Anything that you receive via fax or something has to be secured in a safe, or it has to be shredded. It's minor things like this. So what we have done at JHM, we created a training program. We picked up training material through the HFTP resources, and we customized it to follow JHM policies of training. And after the training was completed, we had each and every employee sign an agreement with us as employers that they will follow those guidelines, and in a breach of those guidelines, they would be immediately terminated from the job. They are given the do's and don'ts of securing big data. So because we are running out of time, I'm going to end it right here. There is some more material, but As like we said, we want to work very close with you. HFTP and FHRAI can work together as a team, and this is how we will be in a position to disseminate some of these educational resources for your staff members. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before Mr. Ashish Chaudhary talks on taxation, we would like to bid a very cordial welcome to Mr. Dilip Parolekar, Honorable Tourism Minister, Government of Goa. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Dilip Parolekar. Please do also put your hands together and welcome Mr. Nikhil Desai, Managing Director, Goa Tourism. A very warm welcome to our dignitaries, and we'll have you up on stage very shortly after his presentation. Over to you, Mr. Chaudhary.
First of all, I would like to give thanks to FHRAI for giving me this opportunity to share my views on burden of multiple taxation, mainly service tax on hospitality sector. If we see the Indian taxation structure, basically India is a federal country wherein different states as a whole makes the country. And the Constitution of India have laid down framework for distribution of taxation power between states and centers. It means states are also entitled to levy tax and center also. But the transaction or the event on which tax is levied by both of them are different. Many times what happens, the nature of transaction is such that it is of composite nature wherein more than one elements are present. So central government also seeks to levy tax on it and state government also seeks to levy tax on it, and which ultimately results into multiple taxation of the same transaction, sometimes dual taxation on the same transaction. This phenomenon in Indian taxation structure is very burdenful for end consumer, because it not only increases cost but also compliance cost for the business also increases. If we see particularly hospitality sector, it is highly hit by burden of manifold taxation, that is mainly VAT, luxury tax, entertainment tax and service tax, apart from direct taxation like income tax or wealth tax. Today we will be mainly focusing on service tax because this is the new law to this sector, and there are frequent changes in the law which are taking place, and we need to be very much familiar with those laws to know what are the areas therein by which we can take the benefit of provisions of law by properly interpreting the law. Service tax. If we see the history of service tax in brief, this was introduced in 1994, and service tax on hotel industry was first time levied from 1/4/2011, but budget 2012 has witnessed a major shift in the manner of charging of service tax and overall approach to levy service tax. Earlier, only few of the services which were specifically covered in the law were liable to service tax, but now if we are doing any activity for consideration, if it is not covered by any exemption notification, or if it is not covered by any negative list item, then we have to compulsorily charge service tax on that consideration. The result of this has been that tax base has widened, and now business have to be very careful as scope of service tax law broaden, and almost every consideration received by business are liable to service tax. But within this structure also there are different options, and we need to examine all those options to ultimately discharge our statutory obligation as well as to take all the legitimate benefits which are directly or indirectly provided under the law. If we see basically negative list regime which has been made effective from 1st July 2012, there are some points in that negative list based service tax which are turning to be positive for hospitality sector. First thing, in hospitality sector, be it accommodation service or restaurant service, there is always composite nature, so tax is not levied on full amount. Certain percentage of your invoice is allowed as a abatement on which service tax is not charged. During current year budget or after negative list, this is generally in legal sense is called abatement rate. So in current budget after negative list, the rate of abatement has been reduced. It means effectively earlier, suppose we were liable to charge service tax on 50% value, now we may be liable to charge on 60% value, which ultimately increase our ultimately increase cost to our customer. But here a major relief is granted by removing restriction on availment of input credit benefit. What does it mean? Whenever as a business we are incurring any expenditure, many times we are also paying service tax to our vendor. But earlier what happened, if hotel industry or hotel is taking benefit of abatement, then they were not entitled to take input set off of service tax whatever they have paid to their vendor. So that service tax was ultimately adding to the cost of the company. Now government has provided that on the one side there is some reduction in abatement rate, so there is increase in some liability, but on the other side they are giving some benefit by providing that you can take the input stage benefit of whatever service tax you have paid to your vendors. So if you see in our business, say there